Coming up today, North Korea test fires what appear to be two mid-range ballistic missiles into the East Sea. Seoul says the first was probably a failure, but the second may have been a success. The co-leader of South Korea's opposition People's Party calls for the formation of a new job creation committee to tackle the nation's stubborn unemployment issues. He also urges Seoul to re-engage in dialogue with North Korea. First, with just over 24 hours to go until polling stations open in the UK, opinion polls show the referendum on Britain's EU membership is too close to call. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Wednesday, the 22nd of June. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon, North Korea has test-fired two more mid-range ballistic missiles, bringing the total number launched over the past few months to 6. The provocation is the regime's latest act of defiance against the international community. Let's go straight to our Connie Kim, who's standing by at Seoul's Defense Ministry for us. So, Connie, what are you hearing from officials there?
Well, Mark, North Korea fired two projectiles off its east coast this morning that are presumed to be intermediate-range ballistic missiles. The Joint Chiefs of Staff says the first missile was fired at 5:58 a.m. South Korea time from the North's Wonsan launch site. The military says it presumes the launch was a failure, and this missile appears to have flown 150 kilometers before exploding in midair. And the second launch attempt was detected from the same area at 8:05 a.m. South Korea time around 4 hours ago. The Monsoon missile flew some 400 kilometers, the furthest it has gone so far, and a high-level government official said this was possible because it was fired from a steep angle. The official also noted the technological advancements the North has made and said Seoul and Washington are analyzing whether a miniaturized nuclear warhead was fitted on top of the missile. Now, it would be a big deal if the second attempt were deemed a success because the previous 4 Monsoon missile launches before today have all ended in failure. The presidential office of Hwang said that it will be holding a National Security Council meeting this morning to reaffirm the missile launch, which would violate the latest UN Security Council resolution and exchange views on the North's technological advancements. Now, this blitz of test firing comes after Kim Jong-un ordered in March that the military test fire a ballistic rocket tipped with a nuclear warhead. The Monsoon missile has a range of up to 4,000 kilometers, so theoretically, it could target Japan and the U.S. military bases in Guam.
So, Connie, we have an idea then at the military aims behind these launches, but could there be any other underlying reasons? What are the experts saying?
Right, Mark. Well, the general feeling is that North Korea is trying to garner international attention as a high-level North Korean foreign ministry official is currently in China. Jae-wan, Deputy Director General of North Korea's Foreign Ministry's U.S. Affairs Bureau, is in Beijing to attend a forum attended by a U.S. nuclear envoy. North Korean senior official Lee So-young's visit to China last month also coincided with an attempted Busan missile launch. Also, some watchers in Seoul say Kim Jong-un is trying to gain attention ahead of a major North Korean parliamentary meeting next week, where he is expected to follow up on the landmark Workers' Party Congress in May. So, Mark, the latest launches are likely to be condemned by the international community, and more sanctions against the regime could be coming down the line. Back to you.
Thank you, Connie, for that comprehensive report. And with these kinds of provocations coming on a more regular basis, US President Barack Obama has extended a number of executive orders on North Korea, continuing US sanctions on Pyongyang. In a notification to Congress this week, Obama said North Korea's nuclear proliferation and the regime's policies remain an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy and economy of the United States. That's why he redeclared North Korea as a national emergency under the International Emergency Economic Power Act, which needs to be extended by law every year. Now back here in South Korea and at the National Assembly, the co-leader of the opposition People's Party has called on lawmakers to focus their efforts on making South Korea a more dynamic economy. For more, we are going to go over to our Ji Myung-gil at the National Assembly. Myung-gil, Ahn Cheol-soo is the last of the party leaders to make a parliamentary address this week. Tell us more about his party's priorities.
Well, hello, Mark. Well, certainly the economy was a top priority during this morning's speech. The co-leader of the People's Party, Ahn Cheol-soo, called on the ruling and opposition parties to cooperate in forming a parliamentary committee focused solely on job creation in an effort to deal with Korea's unemployment issues. It said the so-called Future Job Committee would discuss how to accumulate scientific technologies, overhaul Korea's education system, and find ways to implement structural reforms within industry and labor sectors. And also said that in order to reinvigorate Korea's sputtering economy, the Assembly had to devise measures to ensure hefty corporate cash reserves can flow back into the economy, either through investment, dividends, or salaries. He said with more disposable income, households would increase their spending and consumption, giving the economy a much-needed boost.
So lots of interesting policy ideas there then. And apart from the domestic economy, Myung-gil, what else did Ahn Cheol-soo touch upon?
Well, North Korea took up a big chunk of his address. The People's Party's co-leader urged the government to take a more dovish stance on inter-Korean relations and stressed that in order to achieve a peaceful unification, dialogue and cooperation are essential. He also noted that there had been no cases of a regime collapsing through external pressure or through sanctions. On top of that, he suggested South Korea offer to remove sanctions if North Korea can prove and show that it has changed course from provocations and aggression. To that end, Ahn called on the South Korean government to lay the groundwork for future economic and cultural exchanges with North Korea once the tension dissipates. That's all I have for now. Back to you.
Ji Myung-gil reporting there. Now, staying with a big domestic political issue now, Prime Minister Hwang KyoAhn chaired a cabinet meeting this morning as a follow-up to the government's announcement Tuesday that it was scrapping a new airport construction plan in Korea's southeast. Prior to the meeting, Hwang told reporters that expanding Gimhae International Airport in the western part of Busan is the most reasonable and financially viable option. He said the government's decision was based on comprehensive research on the necessary preconditions of building an international airport. The Prime Minister also attempted to calm angry residents in Gyeongsang-do province, vowing to enhance accessibility from that province to this new airport in, this extended airport in Gimhae. He also said that budget estimates for the expansion will be worked out this year. The new-look Gimhae Airport will break ground in 2021. Construction is forecast to be complete by 2026. Korea's top central banker has warned that uncertainties are growing both within and outside the domestic economy. Leading a meeting with other economists on Wednesday, Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol cited Britain's EU referendum and a possible rate hike by the US Federal Reserve as major uncertainties. Within the Korean economy, Lee mentioned the government-led corporate restructuring drive that's already pushing up unemployment in regions where shipyards are concentrated. The restructuring drive does focus heavily on Korea's ailing shipping and shipbuilding industries. Governor Lee said the recent cut in Korea's key rate, coupled with widely expected fiscal support in the second half of the year, could buffer the potential impact, but needs closer monitoring. The majority of Korea's top 30 business groups saw their overseas sales drop sharply in 2015 compared to the previous year. And this is raising alarm bells for Korea's export-reliant economy, as our Kim Min-ji reports.
The overseas sales of Korea's top 30 business groups are falling at a faster pace than that of their domestic sales. Conglomerate Tracker CEO Score says combined sales of both home and abroad of over 1,000 business units of 30 conglomerates sat at over $1 trillion in 2015, down 6.3% from the year before. Of the figure, overseas sales came to about $500 billion, down 7.4% on year, while local sales fell 5.2% to roughly $560 billion. 20 conglomerates saw their overseas sales dip. The decline comes on the back of a slowdown in the global economy, a prolonged slump in global oil prices, and oversupply from China. S-Oil, the nation's third-largest oil refiner, posted the biggest decline in overseas sales, followed by Hwang and Lotte. Among the top 4 conglomerates, Hyundai Motor was the only to post positive growth, while Samsung, SK, and LG all recorded losses. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Leave or remain? It's a simple question that will shape the future of a nation and possibly even the European Union. Brits will head to the polls in just over 24 hours from now to decide whether the UK stays or withdraws from the EU. The verbal slugfest between the two campaigns is heating up as time winds down. And the latest polls show it could go either way. Hwang KyoAhn reports.
It's a toss-up. Polls are showing that the Brexit battle is back in a deadlock, with intense personal attacks and conflicting facts muddying the increasingly heated debates. Europe's Natsen Social Research Center says the results of the referendum could still go either way, based on an average of 6 recent polls. British Prime Minister David Cameron implored citizens on Tuesday to vote to stay in the EU.
It will just be you in that polling booth, just you, taking a decision that will affect your future, your children's future, your grandchildren's future. It is stronger if we stay. If we leave, we put it at risk. That is a risk to jobs, a risk to families, a risk to our children's future. And there is no going back.
Boris Johnson, the leader of the Leave campaign and the former mayor of London, said at a BBC-moderated debate on the same day that the Remain side is woefully underestimating the UK. He got a hearty round of applause from supporters for saying that leaving could make June 23rd the UK's Independence Day. Polling stations in the UK will be open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Thursday local time. The vote counting will start immediately afterward, and the world will likely know whether Britain will stay in the EU or leave it by early Friday morning. Hwang KyoAhn, Arirang News.
Now, the chair of the US Federal Reserve says Britain's vote on its EU membership could have an adverse impact on the US economy. Janet Yellen made the remark on Tuesday in a testimony before the Senate Banking Committee. She added that a downturn in productivity could also be a permanent drag on the US economy. In general terms, she expressed optimism, playing down the risk of a recession in the US, but she added the Fed will be cautious about rate increases unless the job market shows clear signs of stability. Experts say her comments suggest the Fed is unlikely to raise rates at its next policy meeting in late July. Global flows of foreign direct investment have reached their highest level since the 2008 global financial crisis, according to the annual World Investment Report by the UN Conference on Trade and Development. Foreign direct investment flows rose 38% in 2015 from the year before to $1.67 trillion. Asia was the #1 destination for foreign investment, followed by Europe and then North America. Mergers and acquisitions were the key driver, which increased 66% in 2015 from the previous year. However, the report also said foreign investment will likely drop by between 10% and 15% this year due to growing global economic uncertainties and slowing global trade. The Korean government is lifting regulations on electromagnetic waves for the early commercialization of 5G technology, drones and the Internet of Things. This ahead of the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. The Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning says it has simplified the authorization process of efficiency tests when companies install 5G radio command stations for drones and autonomous vehicles. What took up to 6 months for government approval will now take a maximum of 8 weeks. Also, to speed up the development of the country's exclusive IoT connectivity, the ministry is abolishing its 10 milliwatt electromagnetic frequency limit to allow frequency distances of up to 200 milliwatts. A survey has found that workers in Korea work 11 hours more a week on their smartphones and tablet PCs, and that translates to almost 1.5 hours each day that people work beyond their regular work hours. The Korea Labour and Society Institute cited a local survey which polled slightly over 2,400 workers in Korea's manufacturing and service sectors. Almost 9 out of the 10 respondents said they have to do work using their smartphones after hours. A third said they spend about 30 minutes a day, but more than 20% said they are on their smartphones for up to 2 hours because of work assigned by their employers. The author of the survey said that under the Labour Standards Act, workers that have to use their smart devices outside of work hours should get paid overtime. Now, Korea's Culture Ministry has appointed Jae-wan, a professor at the Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, as the new president of Arirang TV and Radio. Moon is a former journalist at Korea's Mail business newspaper and worked as an executive at the Foundation for Broadcast Culture. In his inauguration speech today, Moon stressed the importance of promoting Arirang, boosting external relations and establishing a legal groundwork for the network. Mr. Moon's term continues through June 20th, 2019. Now, in weather news, monsoon season is forecast to begin today in Korea, with the showers expected to start down south. Jeollanam-do and Gyeongsang-nam-do provinces will see around 80 millimeters of rain this afternoon, and Jeju Island will get more than 120. Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province won't see much rain, though, with sporadic showers in the forecast and under 30 millimeters of rain expected today. The capital region will have another hot, humid day with highs in the early 30s, while the southeastern part of the country will see temperatures of around 25 degrees Celsius. The rain is expected to let up on Thursday, but it will start again on Friday. And that is where we're going to leave it on this Wednesday afternoon here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you, as always, for watching. We'll be back throughout the day, with more newscasts. Our next scheduled bulletin coming up at 3 p.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.